Hey everybody, Dr. Ray Pastor here, and today we are going to talk about the difference between an instructional designer and learning experience designer. Well, we're actually going to investigate if there is a difference between these two things. Because I hear the term learning experience designer a lot recently. I see it, being advertised at different companies as a job. And I'm always reminded when there's names of our field that, when I first got into the field, the big thing was what's the difference between an educational technologist and an instructional designer. Before that, I remember my professors always telling me the big thing used to be the big difference between an instructional technologist and an instructional designer. And throughout the years, I've seen the difference between people making the claim of the difference between an instructional designer and a learning scientist. Or an instructional designer and a learning engineer. And I've done videos on both of those things where I couldn't find differences. But anyway, so we're not here to talk about the differences between those things that don't exist. We are here to talk about the difference between a learning experience designer and an instructional designer. Now, when I'm looking at the difference between these two, I will remind you that there could be a company that calls a learning experience designer one thing and an instructional designer another thing. I'm not looking at the difference of what your company refers to these things as. I'm looking at, is there a difference if I was going to create a job description over general or a master's degree for a learning experience designer? How would that look different than the job description or master's degree or certificate or something of instructional design? Is there a real difference in the field between these two things? So I set out to investigate. So we start out, we're doing some Google searching because we're going to find the difference between these two things, right? Okay, so the first thing I come across is a website, which is LDX.org, right? That's seems like the place to go. So what is learning experience design? And the first thing I come across is the definition of learning experience design, which is perfect because that's the first thing I'm going to do to compare these two things, right? So the definition, learning experience design is the process of creating learning experiences that enable the learner to achieve the desired outcome in a human-centered and goal-oriented way. The process of creating learning experiences that enable the learner to achieve a desired learning outcome in a human-centered and goal-oriented way. Okay, so then I look at the definition of instructional design from my own website. Because I'm asked this question all the time, as I say. I'm asked this question quite often, I say, in 2009. Okay. The definition of instructional design. A process for developing instruction which improves the learner achievement of a learning objective that is measured through an assessment. To improve instruction models, strategies, and theories are used to assess the current situation, create learning objectives, and develop instruction that meets those objectives. Learning experience design definition again. The process of creating learning experiences that enable the learner. The key of both of these definitions is that they enable the learner to achieve a desired outcome. Achieve a learning objective. We're literally using the same terminology. I couldn't define these two things in any more of a similar way than these two definitions. You're creating instruction that enables the learner to achieve some kind of outcome. Improve learner achievement of a learning objective. Okay, so from the definitions, I didn't see anything. So I decided to dig a little further because I'm thinking right now, I'm like, we're literally doing the same thing I just did with learning scientist and learning engineer. And that we did with instructional technologist versus educational technologist, where as a field, we try to split hairs and because it's kind of cool to say you invented the new term and you're this new thing. No, we're better because we do this one thing or something. So I'm still a little confused. So I got to the next page in LDX.org and I see learning experience versus instructional design. And I was like, okay, this will explain to me the difference. So then what I found is that I didn't see one single difference in this page. It's very abstract and subjective. Like the author says that our perspectives are different. But what does that mean? That our skills are different. Okay, well, I'm like, this will tell me exactly what skills are different, but then they didn't tell me any. No skills are mentioned in the paragraph. Then they said methods. And again, I couldn't find anything. So I was like, I kind of get to the bottom. And that's when I read that the person who created the page has no background in training or instructional design. So I was like, okay, that's probably why I'm not seeing any differences, because this person doesn't. How would you tell the difference between the two when you don't know what it is? So that was confusing to me. So I was like, okay, this website isn't helping me out. This isn't helping me explain this difference. So I'm like, let's go to like some master's programs who are learning experience design, because they're going to tell me the actual difference. So we started the one at LSU. I was like, I just picked 2 of them actually. So, because I'm not going to go through like 5 bazillion. So I picked the one at LSU. And the first thing we do is we look at the description. The degree in learning experience design. Oh, and so they're LDX so there's innovation. So they teach you how to innovate in this one too. So they teach you not only about learning experience design, but innovation. So this is actually more than just what an instructional designer does, because you got the innovation part. Prepares students to be leaders and pace setters in the design and development of high quality online learning and training programs for business, government, local, national. Students will learn to manage learning experience design projects, work with talent management, and utilize learning analytics. So they just described what you would do at an instructional design company. You would literally learn how to develop high quality online learning and training programs for business, government, and everybody. And you would take like a project management class to learn how to manage instructional design projects, maybe performance improvement class, talk about like managing people and stuff. Depending on the school you're at, you're going to learn about data analytics, especially if you're in like a doctoral program, and learning about like research methods and statistics and how to use them to create like the ROI of training and stuff like that. So this isn't any different. I don't think this program was trying to be any different, to be fair. I just think they just call their instructional design program learning experience design. So, that's one thing I will point out, is that throughout the years, a lot of instructional design programs have changed their name like 10 times. Just as an example, I went to Penn State University, and when I went there, it was called Instructional Systems. Before it was called Instructional Systems, it was called Curriculum and Instruction. Then it was changed to Instructional Systems, and now it's actually called like Learning Design, Training, and like something else. So the program's names change, even though, and curriculum obviously continues to be updated and stuff as the field moves on and stuff, but just pointing that out. So then I got to this other master's of learning experience design, and I thought, cool, like another one. I wasn't really too familiar with this college, but I was like, this is cool, because they have like their professors, or they have like professors from Dartmouth and Brown and stuff, and I was like, that's pretty cool. So I was like, so they have this thing like where they're describing the industry, and I thought like, cool, job titles held typically by learning experience design students. And I thought like, this is going to say like something way different than instructional designer, right? Not only is it not different, they actually tell their students that they're going to hold a job as an instructional designer. They literally say, our masters will teach you how to be, you're going to be an instructional designer. That's what you do. Okay. And that's not a big deal. I'm not like putting down these programs or anything like that. But what I found in my research is that there's absolutely zero difference between a learning experience designer and an instructional designer. As a field, there is no difference between these two. We can call ourselves educational technologists, instructional designers, learning scientists, learning engineers, learning experience designers, you name it. You want to call yourself that? You want to put it on your resume? Perfect. Your company wants to call the learning experience designers the people who do this X, Y, Z and define it a different way. Perfect. That is completely fine. But as a field, it's not any different, and we actually do disservices by keep coming up with new names of ourselves. And it would be much better if we just stuck with one. And I don't care if that's not instructional designer. I actually never liked that name. It doesn't tell me anything about what we really do. So I never liked that, and I've been in the field for 20 years. But I do think as a field we need to come up with some agreement. And I think that anyone trying to tell you that learning experience designers are different than instructional designers, you know what? I've actually got some snake oil back here that I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to create a video showing you how I can sell that. No, I'm kidding. But that's what someone's doing, or they just don't really know the difference. But I'd be very cautious of anyone trying to tell me there is a difference between these two things, because there isn't. All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed my video and hope you have a nice day. Later.